fact you weren't joining us tonight. You're busy sitting.
Welcome everyone to our meeting for Monday, November 7th. This is our meeting to discuss our 2017 draft operating and capital budget, and it's an information session mostly led by Ms. Donna DeFilippis and our CAO, Mr. Chris Carter. Note to members of the public, all cell phones, pagers, and PDAs to be turned off. Additionally, for your information, please be advised that we are audio and videoing recording this meeting here tonight. Councillors, is there a disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest? Seeing none, Madam Clerk. I do want to tell the gallery and the general public that Councillor Jason Trombetta and Councillor Joanne Chichuk will not be attending our meeting tonight. Number two, is there anyone who would like to address items on the agenda? It's per section 6.7, the procedural bylaw, public comment at council. There should be no comments from the public permitted at council unless a specific appointment has been scheduled or an item is included under other business. Is there any members of the public present who wish to address a specific item on tonight's agenda? Please just come to the podium. Your left, my right. State your name and your address. If you have something to say, now is the time to do it. I know a few people have stated that they would like to get up and say a few words. Again, folks, is there anybody in the gallery who would like to address any items on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to other business. The Treasurer Director of Finance, Ms. Donna DeFilippis. She's here to talk about the information report number RFD T3116, which is the 2017 draft operating and capital budget information report. Councillor Bell, you have that resolution, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Credan that report RFD-T-31-16 regarding the 2017 draft operating and capital budget information report dated November 7th, 2016 be received for information, and that the draft budget be presented at the open house on November 16th, 2016.
Thank you, councillors. Moved by Councillor Bell and seconded by Councillor Ganan. Sorry. Questions and comments, and we're going to start by a presentation by Ms. Donna DeFilippis. Donna, please.
Thank you, Mayor Joyner, and through you, Mayor, to Council. I'm going to do a brief presentation regarding the 2017 draft operating budget. First of all, I'd just like to remind Council the way certain departments within our budget work. The following departments have their revenues netted against their expenditures. So when you're looking at the budget summary, you will not see their revenues on the budget summary. It'll be in the actual budget binder. Those departments are the library, fire, building, planning, recreation, arena, water, and wastewater. Also to remind Council that the building department, the water department, and wastewater or sewer are funded through user fees. There is no impact to the tax levy for these three departments. One final reminder is that the fuel and equipment line on the budget summary, you'll see that it has a zero amount. That's because what we do is we allocate the cost for equipment repair and maintenance and operations. We allocate it to road maintenance, winter control, facilities, arena, water, sewers, recreation, and sidewalks. One final note is that the budget that's being presented to you this evening, and that will be presented to you in December, will not include the water and wastewater budgets. We are waiting for the bylaws to be passed at the regional level, and we buy our water from the region, and they treat our sewer. So their costs are significant to our budget. So we wait until they have approved their budget, then we know what our costs are. So early in the new year, you will be presented with water and wastewater budgets. But as I mentioned, those budgets do not impact the tax levy. Just another reminder, the way the tax bill works. The township is a lower tier municipality, and we collect taxes on behalf of the Niagara region and on behalf of the 4 school boards. So on the tax bill that a homeowner or business receives, approximately 29% of that is for the Township of West Lincoln, 54% is for Niagara Region, and the balance is for education.
I guess is a quick one, sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can you go back to the previous screen, please, Tom? The 54, the 29, and the 17. How does that work? Does the region decide how much money they want to take, and the education decide how much they want to take, and we just get what's left over? In other words, if they wanted to gouge, they could take us down to zero? Is there anything the township does to participate? Because the region seems to get higher and higher all the time. And out in the country where I am, I don't see any difference. But the point is there any negotiation among the three? In other words, is there any way that West Lincoln could get 32% instead of 29? Or how does the system work?
Through you, Mayor Joyner, to Councillor Rayner. So these percentages would vary depending on the amount of levy that each of these entities requires. The Township of West Lincoln, we require a levy, and that's our levy. So it's 5.6 million, I believe. That's our levy. The region does not have any say in what we levy as a local municipality. The region sets their own budget as well. And what they do is they divide that levy between all the municipalities. They let us know what our portion is for the residents of West Lincoln, and we collect on their behalf. With the school boards, they issue their rates in usually March, and we levy on their behalf. So it's not like we get what's left in the pie. We are responsible for our own levy. If we were to levy $10 million, these percentages would change. But that's a local decision.
Mr. Mayor, it's just that the West Lincoln number, I believe, was higher at one time.
Through you.
And I know the region number is higher than it was in the past.
Through you, Mayor Joyner, to Councillor Rayner. In reality, the township figure used to be about 27%. So it was not, in my recent memory, it was not higher.
But the region
Yeah.
was.
These percentages are usually very much the same. They don't vary hugely.
So when I became a councillor back in 2006, or an alderman, if you like, it was, the region was about 52%. So in the last 10 years, it has gone up a couple of points, yes.
That's my point.
But
And Mr. Mayor, taking that in mind, that 2% that's been added on now has to come from somebody else losing 2%.
No.
In order to make the 100. Because that's what you make it as 100. Somebody has to, either the West Lincoln or the education has to have lost the 2% for the region to gain 2%. Somebody has to give it up because the number is 100 and you're done.
True enough. And Ms. DeFilippis, I guess probably the question one from Councillor Rayner was, how do the percentages figure out, I think is what he's asking. Like you've talked about the levy. So our levy of $5.6 million is not 29% of the total budget.
Through you, Mayor Joyner, I'll try to give an example. If the base, if all taxes collected in West Lincoln is $10, West Lincoln's could be 3, the regions could be 6, and the school boards would be 1.
Right.
That's the percentage. However, over the years, the amount of money levied from taxpayers has increased. So now maybe the base is 20. So what that means is, what we've levied has increased, what the region has levied has increased, and what the school boards has levied has increased, but the proportions may stay the same.
Yeah, you still have 100%.
Right. Okay. Good. You still want to speak to that, Councillor?
Well, yeah, just briefly, because I want to help my colleague. The 100% is not the cap. Okay, so it can keep going up and up. So if we go up 2% and the region goes up 2%, and the education goes up 2% in their local jurisdictions, that pie chart doesn't change. The 100%, it might be a bigger number, might represent a bigger number. Might, you know, do you understand? It's a percentage of whatever that new number is. If, for example, you're getting it now, I think all of a sudden I saw a light kick on. If we go down 2% and the region goes up 2% with their respective levies, you'll see a slight shift in that pie chart. favoring moving to a bigger portion for the Niagara region, because they went up, we went down. That 100% is still 100%, it's 100% of the bill, whatever that bill is. It might be a bigger bill, but this breakdown, so Don is kind of projecting, you know, based on last year and stuff, but if we go down or the region goes up, the bill might not change, but the percentages slide over. Okay, so that I think what you have to understand is the 100% is not a fixed number, a dollar value in reality. It's just 100%. It's 100% of your bill. That help? If we all go up 2%, the pie chart doesn't stay the same. That's probably the best way to say it.
Excuse me, no, through you, Mr. Mayor. If we all go up the same amount, the chart remains exactly the same.
Correct.
It's only when something changes, which you and I had just discussed, because I remember the region being lower and the region went up. So to me, in order to change that, either the Township of West Lincoln or the education had to have lost in order for the region to have gained if you wanted to equal the 100. And it always equals 100. So somebody has to give if somebody takes. And it seems like the region takes and everybody else has to give. And that's kind of what it's looking. I'm just thinking that our number is getting, you know, I can't see the education going down. I mean, it's usually consistent. I'm surprised that it actually isn't higher than that. But I just want to make sure that this township gets a fair amount of the tax dollar and we're not losing a lot of it, because we have the largest municipality in the region of Niagara and we've got like 444 kilometers of roads. We've got a lot of work. We need the money. And the region just goes and takes some of it. Well, we have to lose something from somewhere. And with everything else we've got going on, it hurts.
Yeah, it's not true.
Okay, so I think maybe a little sidebar later on so we can explain this just a little differently. Let's move on if we could.
So the 2017 general tax levy, the base levy, we're projecting $5.6 million. So it's $5,612,500. Compared to the 2016 levy, the increase is $53,870, which represents 0.97%. From that figure, we subtract assessment growth. What that means when I say assessment growth, it has nothing to do with reassessments. It has to do with new assessment the township did not have at the beginning of the year. So that is new builds, additions, items like that. When we take into account assessment growth, the net levy requirement is actually in the negative. It's minus 57,130 is the difference, which ends up being a difference of minus 1.03%. So what that would actually mean to the average township resident for their Township of West Lincoln taxes, the amount of $1,087 that was paid in 2016 would now be $1,076, so it's about an $11 decrease. Okay. And that's based on the base budget. Now, this chart includes the additional levy that would be required for the MERS project, which Council was presented with at the October Public Works meeting. For the MERS project, an additional $283,500 of levy was added to the base budget. This ends up being a 6.07% increase over 2016. So what it is, it's the 0.97 from the previous screen, and then we add the 5.1%, which represents the first year of the MERS additional levy. So we have 6.07%. Again, from that, we would deduct the assessment growth. So with the MERS included, we're looking at a net levy increase of 4.07%. Just to remind Council that a 1% increase in the total tax levy equates to $55,000. Likewise, if you were to cut $55,000, it would be a 1% decrease to the total tax levy. As I mentioned in the previous slide, assessment growth accounts for $111,000. And as Council is making decisions regarding this budget, for every $10,000 in tax levy change, you're looking at approximately $1.90 impact on the average property owner. Now, there's 3 service level changes that we want to bring to the attention of Council in this 2017 budget. The first level service level change is the addition of a crossing guard. for $8,000. This service level has been included in the draft budget that you're presented with. We've included it as, because it is for safety purposes. There's been a requirement to add another crossing guard at the stoplight in town. One is not sufficient for safety purposes. The second service level change we are requesting is for a Canada Day event. This item is not included in the draft budget. In anticipation of Canada's 150th birthday, staff have written for a grant and are looking at having a one-day, full-day event on Canada Day in the downtown core. Events are planned for all ages and would include fireworks. The budget for this is set at $41,000. A grant has been applied for at the Niagara region, and we already budget $7,800 for Canada Day. So in order to do this full new 150th birthday celebration, we would require an additional $10,000. And lastly, there's a request to hire a part-time recreation programmer. The cost to the budget would be $8,300 for this new position. The coordinator of recreational services has looked at her staff complement, and she would like to add a new position to develop and implement some programming during the day that would be targeted at some of the older residents in our municipality. And also this position would take over and actually commence some social media programming that's needed in the rec department. This position would replace some of the other part-time hours that are in that department, but there would still be a cost of $8,300. Now, for items 2 and 3 on this chart, if council wanted them included in the budget, then there would have to be a resolution to direct staff to include them. Now, this chart represents the budget summary. Column C is the base budget, which represents the 0.97% increase. That's the budget before the MERS is added. And column F includes the additional allocation for the MERS project. Also, just to bring to council's attention, column A is the original budget that council passed in 2016. Column B takes that original budget, and what we've done is we've removed $589,000 from the revenue from the expenditure. In 2016, we had $589,000 of prior year surplus, which was quite a significant amount of money, and council spent it on capital and special projects. If that were included in my comparisons, it would skew the numbers because a lot of departments would come in under. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to give council a good representation of, okay, what is 2017 looking like compared to 2016?
A true comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be more accurate. So that's why that's been removed for comparison reasons. One point on our revenues, the support grants, included in that number is $801,000 that we received from the province. It's the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. That amount of money the township receives in recognition of the fact that we are rural and that we have a lot of farmland. And as council knows, farmland is only taxed at 25% of the residential rate. So there's revenue that the township is missing. So we do get a grant to help compensate. However, the announcement for that grant for 2017 has not been announced. It won't be announced until mid to late November. So there is a possibility that when the December budget is presented, that figure may change. I've used the 2016 allocation. I haven't increased it, but there is a possibility that it could decrease.
Too as well.
So I wanted to alert council to that.
And that's the OMPF.
OMPF.
Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. Thank you.
This slide represents the expenditure summary that's included in the 2017 draft budget. The report that you received highlights some of the significant changes to some of these departments. I'm not going to go into detail on a lot of those variances because council does have copies of the variance sheets, and the significant ones have been highlighted. Of course, if you have questions, you feel free to ask any questions on any specific department. And just to remind council, sanitary, sewer, and water is not included in this budget. The next two slides highlight the 10-year capital plan that staff has been working on. Over the next 10 years, almost $66 million of capital is projected. This is listed by service area. When council gets their budget binder at the end of November, you will be provided with the detailed 10-year capital plan for each line item. So for each line item, you will see exactly all the capital projects that are planned for the next 10 years. At this point, we just present the summary. Now, this part of the 10-year capital plan highlights the various funding methods for all that capital that's been presented, almost the 66 million. I've included this slide just to remind council about regarding the MERS project, what was reported at the Public Works meeting in October. There were two phases, phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 had a gross cost of 12.2 million. Phase 2 gross cost of 11.3 million. Those are the costs that have been included in the 10-year capital plan, and those are the costs that have been included in the 2017 detailed capital plan. So the figures are coming from the Public Works report that was presented in October. So we're looking at a gross cost of 23 million. And council is reminded that we do project approximately 10.7 million of development charges to be collected over the term of this project. The next three slides, and also in your package, are the detailed capital projects that are planned for 2017, and I apologize that it is difficult to read on the projector. It might be easier on the handouts for the audience. So what we've done here is we've listed the expenditure again by service area, and we indicate how each project is being funded. To highlight some of these, this first project here is the Boyle Road Bridge. This is a shared bridge with the Township of Wainfleet. We have applied for funding from OSIF, which is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. We would be the banker municipality if we're successful with that grant. And we've applied for significant funding, and the township would cover the difference with development charges, and then this cost sharing would be Wainfleet's portion.
So 39,450.
If we receive the grant, that would be the township's portion for the repair of that bridge.
Thank you.
That's a repair, not a full replacement. On the second sheet of the 2017 capital projects, the MERS facility is here at 12.2 million. And on the final sheet of the 2017 capital projects, we have some surface treatment projects, sidewalk reconstruction, and the continued streetscaping of the downtown area. And just to remind council that next week on November 16th, there will be a budget open house that we're going to be hosting at 7 p.m. for the public. It's more of less formal event where the public can come in and make comments. They receive a similar presentation as tonight with a little bit more detail. The budget deliberations are set for Monday, December 6th. And if needed, we have the following Tuesday, December 7th also set aside.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. DeFilippis, for that presentation. Ricardo will put back on the lights, and I'll ask committee if they have any questions for Ms. DeFilippis at this time. So does the presentation have the same page numbers as what was up on the screen, right, Donna?
Yes, it
Okay.
matches.
Okay. Members of council, is there any questions at this time? Councillor Rayner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. DeFilippis. So the number is 4.07 plus the 26,300 additional for the 3 additional items. Is that correct?
2.
Through you, Mayor Joyner, Councillor Rayner, the increase, the levy that we would be requesting is $5,896,000, which is 6.07%. The 4.07% is the effective rate after assessment growth.
And then what he's asking is then the 3, he said 3, actually it's only 2 additional items. If council on page 7 wishes to add the $10,000 for the Canada Day event and the $8,300 for hiring a part-time recreation programmer. As number 1, the addition of a crossing guard, Canberra and Griffin is already in the 2017 budget for $8,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So see where it says down the right-hand column, 8,000, yes?
Oh,
That
yeah,
means
yeah,
it's in the budget, and then
Yeah,
the
I
second,
understand. That's great, thank you.
say no, no. Okay,
So,
go ahead.
so what is the real number then? 55,000 equals 1%, correct?
Yeah. In terms of dollar-wise, if you were to add item number 2 and item number 3, it's approximately an additional $3.50 to the average homeowner.
Per month?
So
or
it, per year, so it's the $44 plus $3.50.
But through you, what percent does that make the 4.07? I don't have the calculator with me, so you have
Yeah,
to add another 18,300 divided by 55,000 to get the percentage, and then add that to the 4.07, right?
Third of a percent.
Can't
It's
be that.
0.3.
23, so it becomes 4.3?
4.10.
Yeah. 4.10. 4.1.
4.10, so a third.
Oh, okay.
Because-
It's 0.023.
Because $10,000 is $1.97 additional.
I'm
So-
looking at percentage, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
so you're looking,
4.07.
so then 18,000 is about a third
Oh, actually, it'd be
of the 55,000.
3.7.
Okay, now, I have a couple more questions.
Through you, Mayor Joyner, to Councillor Rayner, would work out to approximately 4.4%.
Yeah, 4.4. Okay, further to that, that 4.4% includes the YMCA donation of nearly 1%, is that correct?
Through you, through you, Mayor Joyner, to Councillor Rayner, that's included in corporate services as a grant. Yes, it's included.
So it's including that, so it actually would be 3% if we didn't have the YMCA tacked onto it, correct? Somewhere around there, right? The next question I've got, that YMCA, is this the 3rd year of payment, and is the payment 52,500, and is the extension to 8 years, is that not correct?
Through you, Mayor Joyner, yes, that's correct.
Okay, one further question, if I may ask. The gas tax. The gas tax is included in the MERS, correct?
Through you, Mayor Joyner, Councillor Rayner, staff has identified $420,000 as a revenue source, and we've identified it as gas tax. We would be using that in the second year in 2018 as we start paying off the debenture. In 2017, gas tax would be used for other capital projects.
Not for the budget purposes, and it's not included for the MERS in 2017? It only-
No, because it was not required.
It's not required yet, because it hasn't
Yes.
started yet, is that correct?
Yes.
But it will be when it's done.
Yes.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our CAO. What is the community fund contribution a year? Is it, I believe you said 550,000, is that not correct?
Through to your worship, through the members of council, correct, approximately 550.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, through you to Ms. DeFilippis, the 550,000 then, if we substituted the 550,000 and used that and took the gas tax out, that would leave us with a $130,000 surplus. Is that not correct?
Through you, Mayor Joyner, based on those figures, yes.
So if we took that $130,000 surplus and divided it by 55,000 equals a 1% tax increase, we could actually lower the taxes by 2.5%. Or conversely, we could take the number that's left and add it to the 420,000, which coincidentally happens to be the total amount of money that the YMCA is getting. It's a bad number, I don't know why it came up twice. But anyways, the 420, if we add the 130 to it, we could actually add that to the gas tax and use it for getting more roads done in the township. Is that a possibility through you to Mr. DeFilippis? It's just moving numbers around, is what I'm saying. Or
Yeah,
or to the CAO.
Mr. CIA, you want to
Worship,
explain?
through the members of council, correct. There is going to be an opportunity, I think, at the December 6th meeting in terms of how we utilize those funds and how we allocate those. But again, those funds are available to council's direction. There is an agreement based on stipulation what we have to use it for. However, they're very open in terms of what we can use it for. So it can be for roads, it could be for anything council wishes. So just the odd little stipulation, we can't use it for specific things, but.
So it would be available to you?
Correct,
if we want.
yes.
And we can go into more detail next month?
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't see who was first. I'll go Councillor Bosma, please.
Thank you very much. I knew this would eventually come up, and because it's just like this, beautiful slush fund there that hasn't been designated for anything, but it's got to do with the community fund, and I'm gonna go on record at this time and suggest that that community fund will create. The idea that we can just take the community fund, which is largely generated on the inconvenience and backs of the people more or less in Ward 2, because of the nuisance that they must endure on a daily basis because of the wind turbines, and to suggest that that fund can just be so flippantly moved over to the MERS project to make everything all right and peachy, I think will create a firestorm of dissent, anger, separation of our community. I'm not suggesting for one moment that Ward 2 gets this $550,000 windfall in its entirety spent on the community. But Ward 2 has received, by and large, the brunt. It is the community that has been impacted by the wind turbines, and this is a community fund, an impact fund. So this is not a slush fund that other people can put their hands on and use, for their fun and recreation in Ward 1. I know I have never been one to say divide the municipality up into 3 wards and make sure that we get our fair share of the taxes and the way that the projects are divvied up. I've never done that. But when it comes to this community fund, I find it reprehensible that people think that they're just going to assume the whole thing and move it into a project in downtown Smithville at the expense of the people, the residents of Wellandport and St. Anne's, who are basically surrounded by 44 wind turbines. And as a result, they're the ones that are impacted. I'm receiving dozens of calls from residents in my community who are absolutely appalled that a suggestion, because it just happened recently and it was discovered that people are very hot and under the collar that the gas tax was going to be used in the financing of the MERS project. But then when it was suggested last time by my colleague that the community fund might do well in its place, that created a lot of ire as well. Now people are telling me this, and I'm sending them your number, and I'm telling them to contact you because it was your suggestion the first time, and you came here tonight and did it again. So I'm going to, with great passion, discourage that idea that the Community Impact Fund is just going to fund the MERS project on the backs of the residents of Wellandport and St. Anne's, largely speaking, Ward 2, who are the community that's impacted by that. The second grave concern that I also have with the budget is the bridge repair on Boyle Road. I know that OCIF funding, that's something that's been applied for, and if we receive it, we'll get the $709,000. But did we not apply for that correct me if I'm wrong, did we not apply for OSIF funding for Bridge 12?
Correct.
Did we get funding for Bridge 12? So it might be a little bit of a cart before the horse, or counting our eggs before they're hatched, to assume that we're going to get the 709,000 when we made the same application for Bridge 12, which was in dire need, and didn't receive it and had to fund that whole bridge ourselves. And so I think it's a little presumptuous to assume that $709,000, unless there's a note that it's still in the application stage. We haven't received that. Okay, so we haven't received that. If we don't get that, we're going to be short on this budget another $354,000. I think it's a little bit reckless and irresponsible at this stage to assume that we've got it, when the last time we had a bridge and we applied for it, we didn't get it, and that bridge was around the same price. Those are two off the bat concerns that I have regarding. There's my general principles, which I've stated for the record, and I love the fact that it's now recorded on video, because I can access it, the comments that are made, and so can the public. And so they've been, I have still my concerns about the MERS project, the 30-year capital debenture. The phasing of the project is still very challenging for me, and as I said, the gas tax, or as being suggested twice now by my colleague, the community fund. So I'm going to go on record and say that, and then leave it at that this time.
Do you want a rebuttal, or do you want to?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it's a rebuttal. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like Councillor Bilsma to clarify fun and recreation in Ward 1, please.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you know
Well,
what he
that's
means
what
by
he
that?
said. He said in order to allocate the funds for fun and recreation in Ward 1, which I think was sarcasm, but I'm not really sure. It's certainly, I don't know what fun and recreation is going on in Ward 1. I'd like to know, since he knows my ward better than I do.
Okay, please clarify, Mr. Balsma. Councillor Balsma.
My mistake, I did make a mistake. I meant Ward 3. So it was the, in Smithville wards, it was Ward 3, where the municipality is, putting up the MERS project. So again, I'm not good with the numbers. I think I was using the term Smithville and Ward 1 interchangeably. So there's my mistakes. Ward 3.
Okay.
Thanks for the correction.
I'm not sure if I got an apology, but I think I did.
Okay.
All right. The second thing with regards to Councillor Bilsma's comments, if that money he feels was earned on the backs of Ward 2, and it's part of the township of West Lincoln, and he doesn't feel that Ward 2 should be getting all the money for the area because of their suffering, then is his intent to put it into an interest-bearing account that will sit in perpetuity? Because that's what'll happen if he feels that Ward 2 shouldn't use the money, but no one else should get their hands on it because they didn't bleed to get it. So where does he figure he's got plans for this money down the road? We're all working and live in the township of West Lincoln, and I'm just wondering what direction this goes. If the money's not going to Ward 2, but the money's not to go to MERS or anything else that's important for the rest of the township, then what direction does he have for this money?
Councillor, do you want to answer that now, or is your statement fine?
I don't know that it's necessary for the draft, but I do have, there are some, the community of Wellandport and St. Anne's as villages have not received their, in that sense, they have streetscapes and stuff that have been neglected for all the 40 years that West Lincoln has existed. They don't have the curbing, and they still have ditches down their main drags. As an example, there's a library. I mean, Caister got their library several years back. Wellandport, in a bid to be efficient, used the same plan that was developed for the Caister library for their library, which, if you've ever been there, is in a sorry state. Now, I understand that there's funds set aside for the library project there, but the community center is also on its last legs as well. And so those are some of the examples of where the community of Gainsborough would be very, very pleased that the township of West Lincoln would throw them a bone. There's also the fact that many of the roads that the wind turbines are on are gravel roads. Now, there's more increased traffic on those gravel roads as a result of the maintenance that's required on the wind turbines. So I think it would be fitting for roads like Concession 4 and Vaughan Road, which are gravel and SPOP, great gobs of dust. I mean, these people have had to endure great inconvenience because their roads were literally mashed into oblivion. You wouldn't believe how much those roads have widened out and flattened. And so I think that it would be prudent for roads such as Vaughan Road and 4th Concession to finally get some tar and chip so that they can finally be done away with the dust that the Enercon trucks servicing the wind turbines are going to put on those roads for the next 20 years. So those are examples of the community that's been impacted and will continue to be impacted for the next 20 years, how they would like to see that. And again, I'm not suggesting for a moment that we get all the money because the wind turbines happen to be there. I know that transmission towers have gone through town, and so there's an impact around the residents of the transmission. But I'm saying, that to imagine that somehow the $550,000 is going to go without a fight from the residents of Ward 2 to the municipality, or into the center of Smithville, I think is a little bit presumptuous at this point. So details about how that's all spent, it can be for a different day. But those are examples of the way that I have felt that my community, the one that I represent in Ward 2, have been greatly impacted. And this little fund is a small little token of the devaluation of houses, the devaluation of lifestyle that has occurred over the last 2 years and will continue for 20. Just throwing that out there.
No, I think it's enough conversation to be on. I'm going to go to Councillor Bell. I almost called you Dr. Bell. I used to be a doctor here in Smithville. Doc Bell. Councillor Bell.
Through you, Mayor Joyner, the Treasurer, the 4.7% for the urban area, does that include sidewalks and street lights, or is that on top of that?
Through you, Mayor Joyner, to Councillor Bell, that does not include the specific area levy that the township has.
Okay.
That is the general levy for the whole township.
How much of an increase would it be for the urban area?
It's noted in the report what the increase is for the urban area. I believe it's approximately, the increase without the urban area is $44. I think with the urban area, it's approximately $51.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Through you, Mayor Joyner, I'd like to address the issue of the community fund. First of all, I'm appalled by my fellow councillor from Ward 2, what he's just said. And the reason I'm saying that is that he stated that the Ward 2 residents and Ward 1, Ward 3, it's going to divide everybody. With comments like he's making is what is going to divide everybody. That community fund is for the municipality. It's not for any one specific individual, group, or ward. Unfortunately, I can't see how any one individual suffered more than anybody else in this community. Ward 1 has wind turbines. They were the first ones to have them. Yeah, they live on gravel roads and they're beat up, but it gives them no more right to the fund than anybody else in this community. He can argue as loud as he wants and as long as he wants that roads like Concession 4 and Vaughan Road, now because they've been used, should be tarred and shipped. There's roads over in Ward 1 that should be tarred and shipped. There's roads out in Ward 3. It's almost, from what you're saying, Ward 3 is the one that's going to benefit from everything. Is Ward 1 and Ward 2 not part of the community? Or are you trying to divide them out and take them out of this community?
Well, they
I
feel
mean,
left out.
you were concerned about the gas tax of $420,000. It was a figure that was used out there to show funding. Nobody ever said it was going to be used, but you preached it was going to be used. If you want the $420,000, I'm willing to give you that $420,000, and we'll keep the $550,000. I mean, simple math. You know, look at the numbers and wait until we get there. It's almost like you're fear-mongering everybody. So I just want to get that out there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. You know, I just want to add to that is that no one's made a decision yet, and staff has done a very good job of letting us as councillors and as the mayor and council to make that decision. And, you know, democracy is going to come forward. But I just want to say this, is that, you know, it's one or the other. And I understand, Councillor Belsma, that a lot of times you'd like to see gas tax used for roads and public roads. Yeah. And you're absolutely correct there. And I mean, we throw this number around of 555,000, which is a combination of community fund and road use agreement money. That's how we get to that 555, okay, or 550. So 460 plus just under 100,000 in road use agreement. But we really do need about 420 for the MERS. And you know, there is the possibility, I'm just going to throw this out there just so you can, you know, we're talking about bones here tonight. So, I mean, of the 555,000, a portion of that could be used for MERS, and perhaps maybe a portion of that could go in a fund for Wellandport for 5 years. And that's not even to not think about the fact that, you know, there is an agreement that currently right now our staff, our CAO is working with the proponent, the wind proponent, in gaining some dollars for all of the roads that have been abused over the last couple of years. So there is that figure too that's not been determined as of yet, but there's that too as well. And I would imagine that a good portion of that money coming forward obviously is going to be spent in Ward 2 as well. So, but I do hear you. I do hear you about the state of the roads in Ward 2, like Vaughan Road. You know, it happened to be that was the laydown area it was placed on Vaughan Road. So obviously that saw the most truck traffic. And that dust that accumulated on people's houses is not going to be the same as it was when you had, you know, 250 trucks a day going up and down it. But to your point, you know, we will take that into consideration as a council, and perhaps there is a portion of funding that could be used in Ward 2. Do you want to rebuttal that?
Not that in particular. I want to give a small explanation for my passion. Okay, now I've been at this two years, midway through this first term of my sitting here as a councillor, and so for 2 years I've had these draft operating budgets, and it was kind of explained to me, well, you know, this is kind of a working document, and there's room for discussion, and in 2 years I felt that at a different juncture, when it came back, there wasn't a lot of discussion room anymore. So when I see a draft, I put all my passion and heart on that first thing in order to see what I think are very, very important changes for that I would like to convey to the treasurer and the staff about the direction that I want to see this go. So this is their suggestion, and I think it's fitting and appropriate to have that discussion.
Absolutely.
And so when I see, you know, as I spoke passionately the other night, when I saw that the gas tax, which was suggested, that 420, would go to MERS, and for all these years that it has gone to roads and bridges, and we've used it as such, that, you know, that was stripped out. And those are roads and bridges, by the way, that the whole community benefited from. You know, for example, the bridge in Bridge 12 was a Ward 3. I'm not saying that we have the corner on the gas tax. I'm not suggesting that even for a moment. What I saw in this document is now it's gas tax / community fund. I saw that in here.
Which means you make the decision as council.
Either way, you know, I guess what I'm saying is this is the first time there was a suggestion by my colleague the last time that we could use it. And again, I'm not arguing that none of it, the rest of the community can touch none of it, because I'm not suggesting for a moment that either, that extreme. But what I am suggesting that if this council decides to use even 420 of that community fund, that's a larger proportion. If we even were to go thirds, really, if we were to go thirds, that would leave Ward 2, I'm going to argue that thirds is not even fair, but this is beyond thirds. And that's my point. It's in here. It's been a suggestion, and so I think honestly, so principally speaking, right? If we're going to go ahead with the MERS has to. It's the kind of thing. It's the kind of item for our community that should not put the rest of the community at jeopardy. It is at some level a different style of asset or a different style of infrastructure than roads and bridges. So some people have communicated to me that they see it as a luxury item. That's what they say. We don't need this. We need roads and bridges. We don't need this thing. We don't use it. I'm just telling you, I get that all the time. They're calling me on a daily basis. I can show you my phone record. And so I'm not 100% of that mind, but I'm saying you don't buy a Cadillac when you need a roof on the house. Okay, I'd love to drive a Cadillac too, but you know, we all make choices about how we're going to spend the money. West Lincoln is no different. Last year, budgeted, we had to go into debt to build a bridge. We took out we budgeted to go into debt, to deficit for $550,000, give or take, to build a bridge, a basic item. And so that's why I'm saying this municipality is not in a position, we've done no saving towards this. We're going to be footing the whole thing up front. And we had to go in deficit budgeting for a basic item like a bridge. I'm saying this community is not positioned financially to entertain a project like this. I'd like to see us go ahead responsibly.
And I would say to you, Councillor Bylsma, just to rebuttal that a little bit, that some people would say that is what you should do when you build a bridge, because a bridge is good for 40 years and you should debenture it. Wow. You shouldn't actually pay for it all up front, because it's going to last. It's a long-lasting asset. So some people have the feeling that something like a bridge should be debentured over a 34-year period.
Those people usually aren't in business, so just saying.
Okay, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions for Ms. DeFilippis?
Just some concerns that we haven't quite addressed yet. When I mentioned about the gas tax and then the substitution with the community fund, I said $130,000 left over. I said that could be used for roads, and I did say the township of West Lincoln. Conversely, Councillor Bylsma went back and I asked him what he wanted to do with the money, and he said fix concession 4. Well, that's exactly what I said. I didn't say Ward 1. I said the township of West Lincoln. So really, he didn't listen to what I said. The question I wanted to ask through to the CAO, with regards to Vaughan Road and those other roads, Mr. Carter, I believe that there is a responsibility of the turbine people to bring those roads back up to those standards, and we should not have to use capital money to repair the roads if indeed those roads were damaged because of that equipment. Is that not correct?
Mr. Councillor Rayner, that's what I was referring to earlier when I said that the staff and the CAO will be having future conversations and discussions with the proponent in order to get that dollar figure as to what roads they've actually abused over the period of time that they've taken to build the industrial wind turbines. That's what I meant by that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but Councillor Billsma brought it clearly that there were roads that he said have been subjected to severe abuse because of this. Vaughan Road he mentioned, Concession 4 he mentioned that he would like some of this money, which I said to the Township of West Lincoln, which included Ward 2, that could be done, but not with this money. If indeed those roads were damaged because of the turbines, they should be repaired by those turbine people, and that should not take any of our capital money away from that. We should be able to do other roads with it in the Township of West Lincoln. That's what I meant, is
Mr. CAO?
Your worship, through the members of council, that is correct. So right now, they're in the short period of time, there's going to be discussions between the corporation, the region, and other municipalities and the Wind Corp to discuss how we tackle the repairs of the roads. Based on that, there's going to be options presented, whether we manage the repairs or they manage the repairs. And again, it all comes down to the good old mighty dollar, I assume what it's going to come down to. But at that time, there's going to be an evaluation. There already has been an evaluation on our roads based on preliminary studies that we've done and then also post studies that we've done. So there is a number that we have that we're just putting the final touches on right now that we're going to be negotiating with the Wind Corp. And hopefully it's going to be favorable and they're going to recognize the faults and that we will have the option whether we want to repair it ourselves or not. And hopefully if it works out to a point where it's, you know, advantageous to the corporation to manage the projects, we will tie in other projects to that, because obviously when you get into larger tenders and larger builds, you might be able to get more road done or more materials provided based on the scale of the project. So again, I can't say too much right now. I just know within the next few days there's going to be further dialogue, and hopefully staff will be able to report back Monday night in camera with a draft agreement for council's consideration and where we're going forward with that. So,
okay, if I may make a general statement right now, I'm going to be upfront because I always have been. I'm going to be direct because that's who I am. I'm going to say what I believe and take it for what it's worth. But it's got to the point with Councillor Billsma and his passion about all his people down there and everything else that I think I got to get it off my shoulders.
Just remember, Councillor, that you have the same passion for your ward at certain times too as well.
I understand, but
Right.
but it happened in my ward also. Councillor Billsma, I have a lot of property in Ward 1, and I was approached by the turbine people to put turbines on my property, and I said no. All right? Now, in Ward 2, those same people were offered the same opportunities, and a lot of them took the money. The problem that we've incurred in this township is not because we've done anything wrong. Our responsibilities have been circumvented by the province of Ontario. It's their neighbors who gave up and said, sure, I'll take the money. And what happened down there was caused by their neighbors. Their neighbors not doing what I did and said, go take a hike. So the problem you got down there, and you're saying, well, it's not fair because they had the blunt of the thing. Well, the blunt of the thing was the blunt of your people in your ward agreed to put the turbines there. If they would have said no, like I said no, you wouldn't have a problem right now. So they should be dealing with the people who caused the problem down there, and that's their neighbors. We didn't cause it. We're trying to work around it the best we can. But if everybody would have said no, which they have the perfect right to say, nobody was forced provincially to say you had to take it. And I certainly told them no. If their neighbors down there would have said no, then their neighbors wouldn't have been subjected to all this stuff that you're talking about. That was caused by their neighbors, not by the Township of West Lincoln. So, I mean, we need clarification of that, too. If they've got a problem with this township, they should start with their neighbors, because they're the ones who agreed to put those turbines on their property, and that's what caused all the problems for this township. Their greed and their want lust for money has caused this township an awful lot of frustration, a lot of frustration that was beyond anything this council or this township has ever had before. And it didn't have to happen if they had balls enough to say no. So this is where it stops to me. I'm tired of this with the township. I'm tired of this with the turbine stuff. This stuff is totally preventable. The people agreed to put turbines on their land. That's what caused the problems. That's where they should be concerned about, not the rest of us who backed down and said, no, we're not going to do it. And I can state that clearly because I had the land and I was approached, and I said no. And if everybody else said no in your ward, you wouldn't have a problem in your ward. That's really what it amounts to me. This really bothers me, and I'm tired of hearing about this, about the problems with this, with the roads and everything. The mess you got on your roads are there because their neighbors agreed to put the turbines on. If they didn't agree to put the turbines on, you wouldn't have a problem with your roads out there.
Okay, Councillor.
So I'm just tired of this with the turbine stuff. It's because people gave in for the lust of money. That's what it amounts to.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, there is. It's all part of the Green Energy Act, gentlemen, so we'll leave it to that. Okay, we have more parts of this draft budget here. Does anybody else have any more
We
questions?
remove from council right now until we decide what we're going to do.
We need to have a recess, Your Worship.
We need a recess. There's a breach of confidence. There's a breach of confidential here. It's a municipal act.
And clerk, should we take a 5-minute recess?
Here is the budget. Yes. And this item is not on the agenda. It could be dealt with on a future date. It's not something we can break and discuss. So it shouldn't be discussed on break.
Okay, so as I said, we're going to go continue on. Is there any more questions for Mrs. DeFilippis in the budget? Councillor Ganan?
I just have a very simple question. In looking at the 10-year capital plan financing on page 11, I'm wondering about the Wellandport Library being pushed back to 2022. Was there a particular reason that that was done when the money is mostly there and we need to make some kind of a decision about what's happening at that library?
Ms. DeFilippis?
Through you, Mayor Joyner. This is a draft budget, and if council so chooses to move that library to a different year, that decision can be made.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I know prior to my running for council that there was a decision made to look further at Wellandport as a whole, and I don't know whether that is connected to that or not, and so I was surprised to see it was so far back.
Mr. CAO.
Your Worship, through the members of council, approximately a month and a half ago, there was a resolution that discussions regarding Wellandport as a whole was to be undertaken exactly the way we're doing, like say, for example, the MERS project, where we could look at as a whole, not just kind of piecemeal projects together. So it was going to be after this project was done, after the phase of the Building a Vibrant Tomorrow, we were going to look at how do we manage and how do we build Wellandport, and that's just not just the library, it's the community hall, it's potential boat launch ramps, it's beautification of downtown and streetscaping, and working with our regional partners and coming up with an overall vision, because we've kind of realized that putting little things together when in fact there should be a larger vision for certain hamlets in our community. We've taken a step back and we're going to be focusing on Wellandport as a whole once we're done the phases with Building a Vibrant Tomorrow right now.
So rather than the entire phasing, is it possible to at least start the procedure so we know what we're doing? I just feel like that's been put on hold for a great many years now. And so that's another 5 years on top of what we've already waited, which has been probably 6 years or 7 years. So
I would think actually that is a discussion that that the library board has to have too as well.
I think this would be a surprise to them.
I don't
That
think
it's
it
been
is.
put
I
to
don't.
2022.
I'm not so sure it is a surprise to them. I think it's been something that's always been in the 10-year capital. I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
Ms. DeFilippis, do you know where it was placed for Wellandport in the previous 10-year capital budget? Is this new, moving it to 2022?
Through you, Mayor Jordan, I don't have the 2016 budget right in front of me, but I do believe we did push it back. I think it perhaps was earlier on, maybe 2020, but I don't know exactly the exact year. I can look that up.
Okay, so push it back this year or push it back in previous years?
In previous years, it was more current, and I believe in 2017, it's been put a little bit farther down the line.
Okay, so based on what the CAO said and what the current state of what was it again you said, Mr. CAO, there about what the library board, what the resolution was that came forward from this council or the library board?
That we were going to work, it was actually council when they approved Building a Vibrant Tomorrow, that we know we have to tackle Wellandport at one point, but what is the overall vision and how are we going to allocate funds appropriately instead of going out and just building something? Well, what do we really need down there? It's not just a library. It's potentially a boat launch ramp. Like, what is our overall vision and how do we
Community center.
financially
Right.
get to that point? As you know, with MERS, we've kind of gone through the phases and we've gone through the surveys and we've gone through the master plans to say this is what's needed as a whole. In saying that, when Wellandport Library was on the books, MERS wasn't on the books. So is Wellandport footprint the same with a facility, maybe what they're getting in the Smithville area? Maybe it needs to be bigger. I'm not sure of that. and I'm not sure how big the community center might need to be, or how wide we need to make the streets or the streetscaping, and how do we come up with the money overall at the end of the day. And we've been playing this really the money game. How do we come up with it? And that's with anyone. How do you actually fund the project? So it was an overall vision of just saying, let's just not rush into something. Let's come up with a plan of how do we attack the services. So
For all of Wellingport, yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you. I can appreciate that, except for, as you know, the money has been there for the library many times over, and then it just has not been built. For one reason or another. Sometimes it had been attached to a larger project, and then that grant money didn't come through, and so then the library died. So in actual fact, the library has been due for a long time. So it's just a little bit alarming to see it had been pushed back even further. So I would like to suggest that somewhere much sooner than that, we start looking at what Wellandport wants, no matter what's happening with the MERS project, and start at least doing some of that legwork that you think needs to be done. I don't disagree with that, but I think we have to at least show that we're trying to do something about that library, which is not in good shape. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bell?
Just to touch on the subject, it was said by this council that Wellandport would do a study on Wellandport, similar to what we've done in town, similar to what our CAO has said. Move that forward next year, get the study done, see what they need, so that we're not going out spending money where we don't need to spend money. And I do understand that, yeah, there is money in there for the library to be built. We've also told the library that their money won't be touched. Okay, it's not going to be used for the new facility unless they want to upgrade to something that's not included. Otherwise, that money is there. But at this point in time, council said we would get the study done. We're not going to build anything out there until we know what we want to build, and we got a plan to work with. And as Councilor Dan said, yeah, it is pushed up to 220. It's in a spot. That's where it is. Nothing says it can't come forward next year to 2019, but we need to have our game plan in place before we spend a penny out there. We need to know what we're doing and where all our money's going, similar to what we've done here in town. And that's the reason that it's been pushed ahead. It's not that it's out there forgotten, because it's not. It's part of the big picture, but where do we put it? So, like I say, it could come ahead in 19, 20, who knows. Right now, it's just showing there on a piece of paper. And the funds are there, and they're not going to be touched by us. So, anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Any other questions, Councillor Gannan?
No, thank you.
Okay.
One further.
Councillor Rayner?
I just want to make one further comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor, and that's to my feelings with regards to Ms. DeFilippis and her work on this. I was shocked at the number. I think it was a phenomenal job. I wasn't expecting anything to be this low, and I think it's a credit, a very sincere credit to all the hard work that she's done to put all this together, because there's certainly, as everybody can see by this is a very complicated piece of work, and it takes a lot of time, and you certainly have to know your pieces to put them in the puzzle correctly. But this number of 4.07 is amazing to me, especially when it includes the MERS, and I think she deserves a lot of gratitude for, in my opinion, a job very well done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bosman?
I want to take this opportunity to apologize to my colleague, Mr. Councillor Mike Rayner. In the heat of the moment, I had forgotten that was an in-camera deliberation. I thought that came to the public because I remember him removing himself, and so I'd like to apologize for bringing that up. Like I said, I was bearing the brunt of a discussion, a heated discussion, and so I'd like to apologize at this time. So get that on the record. I don't know if there's anything more that needs to happen, but at least I want to get that on the record for this meeting at this time.
Well, thank you, Councillor, for that apology. And when you were stating it, I know you were passionate and you were heated when you were saying it. And quite honestly, I could not remember whether or not it was in camera or not either. So that's why I didn't stop you, because I wasn't sure myself. So, seeing no other questions, Mr. CAO.
Your worship, members of council, I just want to highlight on 2 points maybe and one comment. One comment is that this presentation by Misty Philippus is going to be on our website. We had to take down the camera, the picture-in-picture, because it was interfering with some of the numbers. So people can, if they watch this online, they can actually follow it based on the presentation. So there's some movement with that. So just be advised that will be presented on the website. My comment, though, is based on growth. And if Donna can go to maybe that one line item where it shows growth. Anyways, you've taken it down. So anyways, where
Page,
Oh, it's
or
gone.
Mr. CEO?
it's on
Page, slide 5?
slide 5.
Slide
Yeah,
4,
slide 5, where you can see right in the middle where it says less assessment growth, and it's showing $111,000. I just want to be passionate about how important growth is within a community. Because if we wanted to go the old school way of not having any tax increase and we would actually be giving money back. And unfortunately, that's not the way we need to manage our reserves and our budget these days. However, it just shows you how important growth is to a community and what it does to the tax base and how it relieves financially and some of the burdens on some of the new projects that are coming forward. I'm not saying we need to open up the floodgates and next minute, it's a big concrete jungle. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm just saying it's healthy to see some growth, but a strategic growth and how we manage appropriately. And I think you guys did a great job last meeting where we looked at our bylaw and we're just holding back to make sure we want to make sure that this is the proper growth we want and how do we manage it so that facilities just don't blow up and roads don't blow up and bridges and we can manage it appropriately. So that's my one comment with respect to that. And my last comment, and go figure it froze here, was also how under the supervision of Misty Philippus, we've come up with a reserve policy. And that reserve policy has never been done before within the corporation. And that policy identifies how much money we put away specifically for each reserve. So we're not stuck in a position where we haven't allocated money for future projects. We were very proactive with the Wellandport Library. We were able to put money away every year, but unfortunately all the other reserves, for whatever reason, wasn't as plenished as that reserve. So now staff has gone back and we've actually said every year this is the amount of money you need to put away in your reserve. So when something does arise, we are ahead of the game and we're not kind of backpedaling. And it just shows that we're trying to manage the funds appropriately. We're trying to get there in a strategic way, not just something pops up and we got to fix it. Because sometimes we do get reactive, and we're trying as staff to be very proactive in trying to get funds allocated and put away in proper reserve so we can be proactive and it's not going to be a big burden on the taxpayer. So sometimes it's hard to see that as a whole, but I hope you can really understand when you go through this budget, it's actually a really good budget. It's very impressive to see 4.07%, and that's because we have a major infrastructure project on there that can last anywhere between 30 and 40 years. And when you see growth, and it's just like the roads, when growth comes, they're going to want roads and they're going to want those other services. So we have to be prepared, whether they're the services you think we need or the services you don't think we need. However, I think we just need to get there and have one big vision. And I think with council coming on board and coming up with the theme Building a Vibrant Tomorrow and working together maybe how we deal with Wellandport, those are the strategic plans we have to have in place so council is well aware of what's coming down the pipe and what's needed in terms of financially, and continue to work with our partners to get those grants and start building our downtowns and work with the small businesses and welcome new residents to our community and show off what we have. And I've been very adamant, this is my last 10 seconds here, and I'll use the recreation piece, for example. This is a jewel where we live. In terms of, I think of everything and being kind of around Canada and worked in different locations, you can drive 10 minutes and you'll have a state-of-the-art agricultural facility of $15 million. You'll go across the street and they're building the state-of-the-art leisure complex, outdoor sporting event, and then you can drive 10 minutes into our community and right now you have the state-of-the-art recreational services, and that accommodates everything. So within a 10-minute drive, and I'm just using this recreational library and leisure momentum for a thing, within 10-minute drive you're within approximately $50 million of state-of-the-art services that are required for everyone of all ages and needs. And it's not just hockey, it's agricultural, it's not just seniors, it's youth. So this is the vision and this is the partnerships we're trying to build and trying to grow on and trying to move the municipality in the right direction and trying to make sure that our funds are being allocated appropriately. I don't think there's a perfect process or a perfect plan. I just hope that you guys sorry, I hope the mayor and council can see that we're trying to get up with the overall vision and allocate appropriately and try to accommodate everyone's needs. And staff is working really hard to get us there. So that's my 2 cents for the day. I hopefully no one fell asleep when I was talking, but that's all I have to say. And the final thing with respect to the in-camera discussion, to Councillor Rayner's defense, that topic came up not through Councillor Rayner, through a private corporation, and Councillor Rayner did remove himself during those discussions. So Councillor Rayner had zero involvement with those in-cameras, and nor was he available for any of that discussion. So
right.
Again, that's just for clarification, and that was brought up through a different party, through a private company, so just to bring clarification with respect to that. Thank you.
Good. Okay, seeing no more questions or comments, I'm going to go back to the resolution here. It was moved by Councillor Bell and seconded by Councillor Ganan. That report RFDT 3116 regarding the 2017 draft operating capital budget information report dated November 17, 2016 be received for information, and 2, that the draft budget be presented at the open house on November 16, 2016. Seeing no more comments or questions, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, that is it for this meeting. The mayor has declared the meeting adjourned at the hour of 7:47. Thank you, everyone. Just wait 20 seconds, please.